round 10 of the 2024 World Championship. And you join myself, Jack Appleyard, and Simon Crayford had of a special weekend as we celebrate 75 years of Grand Prix motorcycle racing. We've just witnessed all 12 special liveries that will be donning the Silverstone grid on Sunday. And very soon indeed, we're going to be heading across live to the grid to be able to see a photo shoot taking place with all of those bikes together for the very first time, just down in pit lane. If you missed any of that, you can rewatch it across MotoGP socials and on MotoGP.com as well. And once we've gone through that, myself and Simon will focus on what is a huge weekend. So many storylines over the summer break. Not many riders, not many team personnel have had that much of a break. I'm glad to report both myself and you have done though, which we enjoyed very much. Glad to have you back, Simon. Excited for the second half to kick off?
Yes. I'll be honest, 1 week off was enough for me. Really, I was kind of, 2 weeks would have been a big holiday. 3, I was, come on. Honestly, wanted to get back to it. Glad to be here. Sunshine, I got to ride the circuit today, longer than normal, an hour, because of I had to fill in for the guy who normally does the testing for all of the cameras, the onboard cameras. They have signals, about 8 towers around the track, and it jumps from signal, and you have to test those. So I got to do that before the GoPro, and what a track, really. There's no change of elevation, but it's got some spectacular corners, you know, fast, slow, and even, you know, is it Maggots and Beckett's entry there's like Phillip Island-like feel. Really, it's beautiful, and not a cloud in the sky, you know. Yeah, good experience. Not
a bad afternoon you've had then. What a way to come back.
I'm quite tired.
Someone get this man a coffee, and as you can see, these are the 12 liveries that are going to be on the MotoGP grid on Sunday as well. There's some real beauties there, Simon. What did you make of what we've seen so far? A lot of the liveries have got real emotional connections with the team personnel, with the riders, which is great to see, and it's going to be some occasion on Sunday seeing all of these machines out there.
Very cool. I think Grassini having that original, you know, Fausto Grassini 125 took the cake for me, because it drew you into the past and you saw the connection there. I think Yamaha and Honda especially missed a trick, not having, for example, Honda, their livery, so beautiful. It looked like Freddie Spencer's, you know, championship winning 500, and they could have had that there and done the same, the connection, you know. I think everyone will have different opinions because it's the connections they remember from the past, you know. Everyone's got different ones, so yeah, there's a lot of beauties. Choose your favourite.
Yeah, from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, through even to the 2000s in some cases, and even with Trackhouse in the modern day as well.
And I've got the original championship winning bike. I've got a button there while it's on screen.
Yeah.
Super cool to have that here.
It is, absolutely. That, of
Les
course.
Graham, is that right?
Yeah, from back in 1949,
British
of
man.
course. 75 years of Grand Prix motorcycle racing celebrated this weekend. That is that Honda there, which is in honour of Freddie Spencer, the 1983 500cc World Championship that he won in that fierce fight with Kenny Roberts Sr., just 2 points separating them in the end, with Spencer becoming, at the time, the youngest ever Premier Class champion.
So AJS, the first ever championship winning bike, and it stands for, I believe, Albert John Stevens. It was, Stevens was the family. They were a screw making company, you know, that Joe Stevens, I gather it's the father, was quite famous at building, well, a very good quality engineer. He started building motorcycles on the side. Eventually someone won a race, an endurance race with one of his engines. So they went, let's go racing, and came up with a separate company. AJS, I think one of his sons, Albert John Stevens, loaned his initials to it, and away they went. 117 world records in their time. Isle of Man wins. Yeah, very cool. And the first ever MotoGP one.
And of course, Isle of Man was the birthplace of Grand Prix motorcycle racing. The first ever Grand Prix was held there on the Isle of Man, not too far away from here, back in 1949. Amazing to think, 75 years later, here we are, the strides forward that those motorcycles have taken over the years. And very special. I got a real feeling that all 23 riders who we had the chance to chat with were quite honoured to be on the grid and to have to be able to play their part in 75 years of history, because for all of those guys on the grid, at the heart of everything, they're fans. They grew up watching the sport. It's a sport that they've dedicated their lives to. So to be able to have that honour of celebrating such a milestone is very, very special indeed.
Yes, and like I was saying earlier, you have your memories of, the racing, and I think in all sports, sport people coming up, the ones, when you are coming up, the ones who are winning, the ones are where you want to be, will always be your heroes, and so I'm sure some of them felt like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Fabio Di Giannantonio in particular, who of course Valentino Rossi was his hero, and you could tell he was almost quite emotional to have the 46 on his bike, his hero growing up, and to have the honour of wearing Valentino's replica helmet for the weekend as well. There are so many stories like that. Jorge Martin honouring the legendary, the late great Angel Nieto, as you touched on. Fausto Grassini has been honoured throughout the weekend with his team as well. So it is certainly a big weekend, a special one, our birthday bash here at Silverstone, and it is all going to play into the storyline of what has been a fascinating season so far. It feels like a long time ago, but that German Grand Prix, Simon, even 3 weeks on, you still get the sense that that was a major turning point, probably the moment of the season so far.
Yes, but we've got a long way to go.
That's why I said so far.
Yeah, but I mean, we have a long way. How many points? I haven't added up. I did remember something like, it's something hundreds, 400.
370 left. There's 10 rounds to go after this. So.
And they're still really close.
Yeah.
So it's like, start from here, and that's what Jorge and his team will be saying. And so it's not over. I spoke briefly to Jorge about it, one-on-one, just to ask, your feeling. He said, look, make mistakes and learn from them. I will learn from that, At the airport, we were having a beer at the airport.
We were.
Yep. And I got to have a quick chat with his crew chief, Romagnoli, a very nice fella. And I said, did he brake later? Because one of the fans messaged me and said, he braked later, you can see it on the tally. He went, no, he braked in exactly the same place. He braked with slightly less pressure. So arrived to the corner with a little bit more speed, a little bit more angle, only fractionally, and slightly over the limit, down it went. I agree with Jorge. He will learn. He's made a lot of mistakes, over the last years in crucial times, but he's also done some magic work, and I believe from what I've seen of him over the last couple of years, he does learn. So I hope that he's learned from that one. He'll fight back the second half of the season, make the championship good to watch.
He was very reflective after this German Grand Prix, saying it's the second time that I've done this year, the third time in 6 months. If you add into the equation what happened at the Indonesian Grand Prix when he crashed out of the lead when he was, 4 seconds up the road as well. He said, if I want to fight for a championship, this cannot continue. He was more so than what we saw in Jerez, where he held his hands up and said it was a mistake. This time he was very, very strong in saying that this cannot happen again. I have to learn from this, as you were saying, and you certainly feel like he is going to.
Because it was like an Indonesia replay, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He had it in the bag.
2 laps to go.
Yeah.
He was there for the taking. Yeah. And for the championship to swing, a 30-point swing in the favour of Pecco Bagnaia. Just on Jorge, did that break come at the right time, do you think?
I have no idea. I mean, riders, I'm sure they felt like me in that a week was enough. Let's get back to it. And 2 weeks was plenty. It's a big holiday. So I reckon it would have been harder, than for Pecco having that break after such a disappointment, So the thing is, it's more disappointing for a rider always if you're wobbling around at the back. He wasn't. He was leading, 2 laps to go. He was going to win. Yes, that's frustrating, but you've got what it takes. That's better position.
I imagine that still, even now, Pecco won't have been able to believe his luck of seeing Jorge Martin in the gravel trap with 2 laps to go. As we said, a 30-point swing means that he did retake control of the World Championship for the first time since the opening round of the year when we left Qatar. Since then, he's had to trail Jorge Martin and has been closing him down to now become the leader a position that at this point in his career he's quite used to. Is that going to potentially see Pecco Bagnaia just grow in stature, grow in confidence?
I think Pecco is collecting to another, what's the word? He's more experienced now. He has experience on Jorge, and you can see it this year.
Yeah.
You know, he still made a mistake, like Brad Binder did. You know, the same one, Catalunya. You know, with a lap or so to go, 2 laps to go, crashed out of the lead. So, you know, it is at this level. It shows, you know, both of them doing that. It shows that it's so easy to do. You know, they're riding right on the limit, and putting pressure on each other, hoping one another will make a mistake. So, yeah, Pecco has time on the bike over Jorge, and you can see it. He's more experienced.
Yeah, and he's in the form, the record book show of his MotoGP career at the moment. This is only the second time in history that he's been able to string together 4 consecutive Premier Class Grand Prix wins. If he was to take victory on Sunday and make it 5 in a row, that would be a record for the Italian. Of course, would see him extend his World Championship lead out as well, as he guns for 3 straight Premier Class crowns. He's riding spectacularly at the moment. Of course, in the summer break, had the opportunity to marry his longtime partner Demizia in what looked like a fantastic affair. Everything is just going so fantastically for the world champion at the moment. You do feel that he's, as you say, in that zone, in that frame of mind where anything other than victory seems like a long way away.
I have to throw in, because you brought up about the marriage, sports people that have been through it will know it's so important to have the right person next to you, you know, because in sport, especially in individual sport, you feel totally alone, you know. When you go out there, you're alone. I mean, I've heard tennis players say it, and to have someone that it feels like it's us against the world rather than you alone, it makes you stronger, and looks like he's found the right lady.
Yes, certainly a very nice occasion for the pair of them. Mr. and Mrs. Bagnaia, of course, on behalf of MotoGP, wish them very well for the future. I'm sure it'll be a very long and successful relationship. But on the racing side for Pecco, Silverstone this weekend, a place he has had success at before, going back 2 years ago. He was able to hold off Maverick Vinales on that day, got pipped on the final lap last year by Aleix Espargaro, but this is a place where he's had a lot of success. It's a place that has suited him in the past. Has to be one of the favourites.
Style-wise, I would say this is Pecco style, you know. In the past, you wouldn't think it'd be a Ducati track, but it looks like the Ducati works everywhere now. Why I say style-wise is it has fast, flowing turns, and he's really good at that. I've got to say, though, Aleix just popping in on screen now, that Aprilia has been wonderful here the last couple of years. It's going to be interesting to see how they go. You know, the GP24 Ducati has made a step forward, but I'd really like to see how that Aprilia, you know, how much progress they've made, because this is one of the circuits where you would call an Aprilia circuit.
Yeah. And you would imagine that both Aleix and Maverick are going to be huge contenders this weekend. We'll touch on them in a second and what we can expect from the Aprilias, because, of course, there's a big change there with regards to the satellite squad, a full upgrade across the board for Ralph Fernandez. He's onto the 24 package. Miguel has got the updated aero as well, so some exciting times there. But just to round off the World Championship fight, and the third man in the standings at the moment, the third man that's going to be joining us in this first press conference is Marc Marquez, who's, had a pretty busy summer break. It was the World Ducati Week last weekend, the Race of Champions, and there was an exhibition race, although nobody told Mark, because he dived up the inside and took out Nicolo Bulega on the final lap, which is arguably one of the most Marc Marquez things possibly out there. The 8-time world champion knows no such thing of a exhibition race. These are highlights of it, by the way, which in the end Pecco Bagnaia did win. We've been asking a few riders when they've been coming to speak to the media today, some saying, I was just relaxing, some saying they were trying. Those that were up there on the podium, you can see in the background, there is Nicolo Bulega's reaction after being Marc Marquez. Don't worry, Nicolo, you are another name to the list. A few have had that treatment over the years. But it was a great event, and a lot of guys from the Ducati family saying just how nice it was to get that Grand Prix feel back, to get that racing feel back ahead of the weekend. As I said, an exhibition race, but can that help the guys in preparation for this weekend, just to get back into the flow?
Not really. And the thing is with races, it's so hard to not race, you know. I mean, it's egos, it's a competition, you know, in front of everyone. You're going to have a go. Either that or you say no, like Bautista did, and make it really obvious you're just out there for a Sunday ride, you know, which, you know, if you've got a championship to fight for, it's not silly, you know. Otherwise, they're trying. Believe me, they're trying. It looked like Pecco had it well in control, didn't he?
Yeah.
It looked like he made it look like a bit more of a race and then ran away on the last lap. He was the man to beat.
Yeah, he was very impressive indeed. The lap times they were doing were extraordinary.
That's a good point before we move on, is a second faster than the older model bike, you know, 2 years ago did there. That's some progress.
Yeah.
Ducati in the future of World Superbikes is coming again.
Yeah, absolutely. On Marc, it seems quite odd to say, halfway point to the season, 9 rounds finished. This, of course, round 10. Still waiting for that first win of the year, having already ticked off both Austin and the Saxon Ring. Of course, last time out in the Saxon Ring, it was the nightmare weekend of all nightmare weekends for Marc. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong, starting with this monster crash on Friday, which really put him on the back foot, bruising his ribs severely. He broke his little finger on his right hand as well. A disastrous weekend for Marc, and will it be playing on his mind that he's still waiting for that first Grand Prix win in what is now well over 1,000 days? I'm sure he would have hoped and would have thought that he'd had it in the bag by now when he signed for Ducati.
Yeah, and the thing is, Marc was good in Saxon Ring, and things did not go to plan. He said it perfectly coming into the weekend, and I completely believed him, that to perform well, to go well in Saxon Ring, is to have the speed of Pecco and Jorge Martin. And basically because they are the ones leading the way, you know. And I really believed him. I think he was being straight up, and he hoped he could do that. I think if the weekend had gone to plan, you know, he lost a bike early on in the weekend, wouldn't run, and so that throws your whole program out. Then had that massive crash. You know, a lot of people crashed on that corner, cold right-hand side of the front, and he got caught out, you know. Lose that bike for a while, it just didn't go to plan. You know, it battered him around physically. I think if it had all gone to plan, he would have been hounding them right there. But it didn't, and yeah, we've lost Saxon Ring. He saved some good points, you know, he really did. And he'll be ready to fight another day, don't worry.
This weekend, is he going to be in the fight?
Look, just gut feeling wise, I don't think this is a Marc Marquez circuit compared to, I would say, Pecco, yes, and we know the Aprilia, yes. In the past, I would have said the inline fours, Suzuki and the Yamaha, they're not there at the moment, not yet. Yamaha's coming back, Suzuki are not here. It's an Aprilia track, you know, like I said earlier. Ducati is the bike to beat, so it's whoever's feeling on form here on any of those Ducatis. But yeah, Pecco with those fast-flowing corners, I think he is the man to beat. We saw Bez last year. Bez is not on form at the moment, not clicking with that GP23. But I think it's going to be the same people. Jorge Martin trying to stop Pecco.
In terms of the Aprilias, you mentioned Elation Maverick. Can we put Miguel into that picture now as well? After
That's
a real
good point.
Return to form in Saxon Ring, was great to see the Portuguese rider back up there again.
Yeah, and because it's a circuit that suits the Aprilia traditionally, I mean, Raul, what he's done at Barcelona and Germany, and then Miguel just clicking at Germany, finding the way setup-wise. I hope he's here to stay, because what we saw in Germany is the real Miguel. We haven't seen him for, you know, a year, so great to have him back.
And does seem as though we are going to see him on the grid in 2025, hotly tipped to be making the switch across to the new Pramac Yamaha squad. On KTM, it's been a very, very frustrating start to the year. not getting the results that anyone hoped, anyone believed they would after a great first round with Brad Binder finishing on the podium twice. Since then, they've failed to see the podium other than through Pedro Acosta.
Acosta, what he showed in America, I was sure it's coming. We're going to, and it's
gone backwards,
slipping away. Yeah. So speaking to Pat Beyer on the grid at Germany, he was really straight with us. In the interview, pretty much said it's our problem. It's the bike holding the boys back at the moment. All of them having the same problems, and that they're working hard to try and figure that out. I know they've had the chatter problem that Ducati had at the beginning of the year. They haven't got rid of it. It's got bad for all the riders. There's a couple other things that they need to fix the puzzle to be competitive again, and I hope they do it because we know their riders are.
Yeah, Pedro Acosta actually did go to Austria during the summer break. He flew straight from pretty much Germany to Matterhofen to the Pirelli Mobility Group headquarters, I think to, well, we know in certain terms, bang some heads together and try to get some answers and some results for the second half of the year.
And it's not the engine. The KTM is fast, in all areas, acceleration, top speed, but chatter, not quite the turning, edge grip, drive. They've got to fix something in there.
Unfortunately, it seems that's coming at the cost of Jack Miller's MotoGP career. Speaking to the media earlier, said that he's had no phone calls, no contract offers. Does look as though time is running out on Miller's career in the MotoGP paddock, which is a real shame because obviously, goes without saying, there are a lot of Jack Miller fans back home. He's in desperate need of a result, and a result this weekend. He needs it now.
We know, all of us know Jack is better than what we've seen this year. It's sad to see, and timing-wise, it couldn't be worse, Yeah.
So a great shame. Let's see if the Aussie can turn it around and find a result this weekend. Just finally on the two Japanese manufacturers, talking of working hard, both Yamaha and Honda definitely will have been over the summer break. No rest for them. Any confidence that they can make a step in the second half of the year?
The thing is, I've been on holiday as well, and I haven't heard the latest, and I'll be down there pit lane tomorrow, a little bit this evening, tomorrow, trying to get that info and looking at the bikes, because that'll tell us as well, not electronics or engine, but everything else we'll be able to see. Until now, Yamaha have started making some progress. You can see them coming out, and there's even things that they've tested that they haven't got at the track yet that are coming, they believe are better. So Yamaha are on the way back, but I so want to see some light from the end of the tunnel for Honda, because so far this season it's like been a flat line,
And from what we've heard from the team coming into the summer break, they weren't expecting any real steps forward until September. So it does seem as though that this first round after the summer break will maybe come just that little bit too soon. Maybe either side of those Grand Prix at the Misano World Circuit, Marco Simoncelli with a test in between is when potentially we could see Honda take a step in the right direction.
I'll be at their test and can't wait to update what they've got.
Let's see if Yamaha are able to take the step. I know that Fabio Quartararo, speaking to us earlier, was confident that they've been working hard, and there might be one or two things different for Simon to have his eye on in pit lane tomorrow. Right, here we go then. It's great to get MotoGP back up and running, isn't it, after our summer break? And what a weekend to do it as well, as we celebrate 75 years of the sport here at the Monster Energy British Grand Prix. Two press conferences coming your way, the first of which has the top three in the World Championship. World champion Pecco Bagnaia, a new World Championship leader, alongside Jorge Martin and Marc Marquez.